This series of stories from my life includes one about some fundraising for BBC Children in Need and the visits I made to a couple of BBC radio studios as part of the project. And this piqued my interest in the medium of radio. I spent the greater part of my working life making business presentations, speaking at seminars to full rooms and training people whilst trying to keep them engaged and interested and awake. I know this life isn't for everyone, but this sort of thing was definitely a happy place for me, whatever surprises were forthcoming, and there were plenty of those. And I have to say, I often thought, not in a big-headed way, I often thought I could host a radio programme. And by host, I mean to present music programme, maybe with some interesting and intriguing guests in the studio, as opposed to being a forensic cross-examiner in the style of BBC's John Humphreys. And as if to encourage me further, more than one person said along the way, "You have a face for radio." My younger daughter had a contact which led me into the clutches of NE1fm, the Newcastle upon Tyne-based community radio station, and for whom I did a couple of early evening pop-rock tester programmes, which seemed to go very well. I played music I wanted to play with a bit of chat around each song, about each song. And having passed this initial test, I was asked if I'd like to do a regular slot in the schedule. This wasn't so easy as I was working full-time, which limited the possibilities. But I did say yes, but it would have to be on a Sunday evening, and I would be happy to do a classical music show, which NE1fm didn't have on their roster, nor indeed did many other stations outside the two then national radio stations, BBC Radio 3 and Classic FM. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. So on the 12th of February 2012, it was show number 1 for classical NE1fm. Each of the ensuing 150 shows was 2 hours in length, with music from across the ages from the 15th century to the present day. My personal watchword was that each piece of music would be tuneful, or in general musical parlance, meaning tonal as opposed to atonal, and it would cover solo vocal, choral, instrumental and orchestral music in almost equal divisions. So, no shortage of material to go at from composers across the centuries, with the real joy over 3 years actually coming from finding music by both the well-known and the barely known, which never seemed to get any airplay elsewhere. I had a decent selection of classical music and my own collection to get the first programmes off the ground, but I did make contact with the major record labels and some minor ones who were only too keen to ship their latest releases to me, and I was soon submerged in CD cases with lots of wonderful music from a whole raft of composers who were new to me into the bargain. So, lots of music to go at. I learned a few little tricks along the way to keep the show fresh. I had guests on occasion whom I would ask to bring pieces which were important to them. This hit their sweet spots, talking lucidly on subjects close to their hearts. Classical music musicians, as I soon found out, were never short of a few words. Radio presenters heaven. I even had a subset of the chamber choir from the Sage Gateshead in the studio to sing live. It was a crush, but it was great fun. At the start of the second hour of each programme, I usually had a longer piece, which gave me the chance to grab a cup of something and stretch my legs. I should add at this point that I ran the whole programme. There was no producer, no assistants, just me in the studio, and I chose the music and I wrote the scripts. Perfect. I learned how to use the equipment and I had total control. And I even worked out how to finish the last piece of music 1 second before the pips went for the news bulletins, on the hour, every hour. There were a few technical events, like the station going off the air on occasion, my CDs not playing, but nothing really ever forced me to reconsider the role. I did pre-record shows from time to time, as I couldn't be there every Sunday. My Apple MacBook comes with a copy of GarageBand, which is perfect for a pre-record show. I could then send the file to the station and they would play it out at 7 p.m, and no one was any the wiser about my whereabouts. It was always a treat to receive messages from around the world. NE1fm is an internet station, and I actually had regular listeners in North America and South Korea. And a friend mentioned he listened to the whole 2 hours sitting on the top of a cliff in Norway, watching the sunset to my dulcet tones and the music that I'd chosen. I felt I'd achieved all I wanted to with classical NE1fm after 150 shows, so I bade my farewell in March 2015. Yet I still get the yearning to do it again, especially when listening to some of the classical music presenters on national radio whose qualifications seem only to be that they are celebs of one sort or another. Anyway, it has been a rare treat and a rare privilege to have been able to do this, something I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd be able to do every Sunday evening for 3 years. And I gave away hundreds of the CDs sent to me to charity shops so that they in turn could give others the chance to listen to the music.